With horror games coming back in a big way, it's always good to look at what lay the foundations before them. Here's 10 interesting facts about the horror classic Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem. While most horror games revolve around a small cast, Eternal Darkness has 12 playable characters, each with his or own chapter set in a different time period. The latest character in the timeline is Alexandra Roivas, the main character you control for the central story set in the year 2000. The earliest is Pius Augustus, the primary antagonist, whose chapter is set in the year 26 BC. Eternal Darkness is most famous for its sanity effects, particularly because most of them target the player rather than the character. For example, the game might display a black screen as if you turn the TV off, change the audio levels while showing a fake volume meter, tilt the screen, abruptly bring up a false teaser message telling you you've finished the game and need to wait for the sequel, or ask if you want to delete all your save files. There are many other sanity effects, including ones that only happen in particular characters, chapters, and a few scripted ones, such as the hallucinated conversations between Alex and her grandfather's ghost. Since sanity effects are not present in Pius's chapter and do not occur early on for Alex, the first character who can experience them is Elia. According to Eternal Darkness designer Ted Traver, the inspiration for Eternal Darkness's sanity system came from the tabletop role-playing game Call of Cthulhu. A Nintendo-published horror game is unusual, and it is one of the earliest games published solely by Nintendo to be rated mature. But while you might expect Nintendo to clash with the developers over the blood and horror themes, it was actually the sanity effects that caused conflict, and not because of their content. In particular, sanity effects dealing with a memory card made Nintendo concerned players would believe there was something actually wrong, pull the memory card out of the system, and damage it as a result. Silicon Knights had to be careful to make sure players would understand in time what the game was doing with such sanity effects. Each spell you cast in Eternal Darkness must be aligned with one of the Ancients. Spells have different effects depending on their alignments, particularly when it comes to fighting enemies or countering spells aligned with a different Ancient. In addition to the Chatugar, the Uliath and the Zelatath runes, little backtracking in Edwin Lindsay's chapter allows you to obtain the rune of Mantarok, the Corpse God. Some players consider the Mantarok rune a game breaker due to how powerful it is. If you use it for a recover spell, it restores your health, sanity, and magic. Its dispel works against all three of the other Ancients' magic. A weapon enchanted with the Mantarok rune poisons enemies, as does a Mantarok shield. Finally, the Reveal Invisible spell when cast with the Mantarok rune has a different effect. It turns the player character invisible, letting you easily bypass many of the game's enemies from that point on. And this is why Pius and the Ancient he serves felt the need to bind Mantarok. Insanity, powerful Ancients, and names like Zelatath. If you didn't already know, by now you probably have a good impression that Eternal Darkness was inspired by the works of H.P. Lovecraft. The story is incredibly Lovecraftian in its structure and themes, and a few more direct nods as well. The police officer Alex meets at the start of the game is named Inspector Legrasse, a reference to the Inspector Legrasse in Lovecraft's famous story The Call of Cthulhu. At the end of Maximilian Roivas' chapter, he is committed to the Jefferson Coombs Asylum. This is a nod to the actor Jeffrey Combs, who starred as Herbert West in the Reanimator films based on Lovecraft's story Herbert West, Reanimator. Lovecraft's horror isn't the only thing Eternal Darkness references either. The opening quote comes from Edgar Allan Poe. One sanity effect results in your character's disembodied head reciting parts of Hamlet, and Pius at one point says the words attributed to the historical conqueror Tima or Tamerlane. "I am the scourge of God, appointed to chastise you, since no one knows the remedy for your iniquity except me. You are wicked, but I am more wicked than you." If there is one thing Eternal Darkness has even more ties to, it's Metal Gear Solid. Almost all of the voice actors in Eternal Darkness either had played in the Metal Gear Solid series already, or would in the future, including David Hayter, Cam Clarke, Jennifer Hale, Paul Eading, Greg Eagles, and Richard Doyle. Silicon Knights, the developer of Eternal Darkness, later developed the remake of Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. As a result, the Twin Snakes contained a few references to their previous game. The book weapon displays Elia on the cover, and Alex in the centerfold. A magazine in Octagon's lab has the Eternal Darkness logo on it. There's a poster of Pius in the locker in the armory, and a computer monitor on the hangar is open to the Eternal Darkness page of Silicon Knights' website. Psycho Mantis has a new move in the Twin Snakes where he can tilt the game screen, just like the Sanity effect in Eternal Darkness. Eternal Darkness is also one of the games he will reference if the data is in your memory card. In true Lovecraftian fashion, the ending of Eternal Darkness isn't the happiest ending in the world. After all, you need to summon an ancient to defeat Pius's ancient, and it's not like one is more benevolent than another. However, if you begin a New Game Plus, the artifact whose ancient Pius is served in the first game will be missing from his chapter. If you beat the game 3 times, aligning Pius with a different ancient each time, you will unlock the extended ending that goes into more detail about Mantarok and how this powerful ancient has been scheming throughout the ages. In the early builds of Eternal Darkness shown in previews and in the playable 2001 E3 demo, there was a playable Templar knight named Joseph de Molay, a clear reference to the historical Templars' final Grand Master Jacques de Molay. Joseph was shown in a variety of the game's locations, both when it was being developed for the Nintendo 64 and when it shifted to the GameCube, but he is absent from the full game. It's unclear what happened to him. The game's director, Dennis Diak, said in an interview that he was created specifically for previews and the E3 demo, and there was no place for him in the full game. However, lead artist Raphael Yanko said in a different interview that the September 11th terrorist attacks made Silicon Knights and Nintendo decide it would be best to remove the Templar character. But whether Joseph de Molay was cut or never meant to be playable at all, he may not be entirely gone from the game. At the start of Roberto's chapter, Pius comments on a captured knight's impressive ability to see through his disguise. He then orders this unnamed knight to be used for the foundation of the Pillar of Flesh. It is widely believed that this knight, who may be the character listed in the credits as the defeated general, is Joseph de Molay. As we've already discussed, there are 4 ancients in the game: Chatagar, whose alignment is represented by the colour red, Ulyath, who is represented by blue, Zel-Lotath, who is represented by green, and Mantarok, who is represented by purple. Other runes in the game are yellow. For all intents and purposes, these runes are neutral, not aligned with any ancient. However, Dennis Diak confirmed in an interview that yellow magic is the alignment of a 5th ancient, not present in the game itself. We could still learn more about this 5th ancient someday, if Eternal Darkness ever gets a sequel. The mythos of Eternal Darkness makes it well suited for a sequel, and for a long time, it looked like one would definitely come. Dennis Diak confirmed on multiple occasions that he wanted to make another game set in the same universe. In 2011, Silicon Knights said they intended to develop a frequently requested title, and fans speculated about Eternal Darkness 2 as a Wii U launch title. Unfortunately, Silicon Knights ran into legal difficulties and fell to pieces. As the company crumbled, fans discovered concept art for numerous Silicon Knights games that would never exist, including a sequel to Eternal Darkness. Silicon Knights has since gone bankrupt, but Nintendo continues to faithfully renew the trademark for Eternal Darkness, suggesting they're at least interested in the series. Meanwhile, in 2013, Dennis Diac formed Precursor Games and began a crowdfunding game for Shadow of the Eternals, a spiritual successor to Eternal Darkness. However, controversy surrounded it, and many fans were reluctant to pledge money to Shadow of the Eternals. Later, Precursor Games cancelled its original crowdfunding and relaunched the campaign with a few different funding goals. With even more controversy surrounding Precursor Games, the new campaign failed, and Shadows of the Eternals was put on hold indefinitely. In 2014, Dennis Diac formed Quantum Entanglement Entertainment and announced his intention to renew the development of Shadow of the Eternals. At this point, the spiritual successor seems less likely to come out than an official Nintendo-published sequel, but fans can only hope the legacy of Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem, continues in one form or another. I hope you enjoyed this week's list, and if you did, leave a like. And if you want to see more top 10s, click any of these now. And if you want to see more in the future, subscribe.